Walk us through this development. A special advisor to the Deputy Senate President on Legal and Constitutional Matters, Daniel Bola. He joins us live via Zoom from Abuja. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. But what is your reaction to, all right, the reluctance of some of these ministers to resign their positions?
Well, thank you for having me. It is quite strange, actually, in the annals of the history of this country, because we've never had it this bad. Usually 6 months or more to any presidential election, cabinet members are asked who are intending to run for various offices to leave the cabinet so they can focus on, in one breath, so they can focus on their ambition. Number two, say they then use public office and influence to influence the election. And three, so they don't disturb the smooth running of the government. But in this case, it is so surprising that they had to wait until the president had to issue ultimatum. There's only one cabinet member that will tender resignation on his own volition, the Minister of State for Education. Otherwise, the rest waited for the president to have to then ask all of them to resign on or before the 16th. And strangely, the CBN governor's own is the most despicable, because he even attempted going to the court to get an order to restrain every other person from tampering with his office while he pursued his ambition. And that is why a lot of people are calling for the president to sack him, whether or not he's in the race, because he's trying to lay a precedent that will be very, very damaging to the integrity of the election and to the national security interests.
Okay, can the Electoral Act as amended be fingered to be the cause of some of this reluctance?
No, it can't be. Well, until recently, when the Electoral Act was amended in 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, and 2015, the Electoral Act was not amended to this extent. But yet, cabinet members left early enough to focus. These are issues of moralities. These are issues of ethical conduct. And these are issues of constitutionality. So even if you push aside the Electoral Act amendment, if you look at the provision of the Constitution, it says you must never come to that point as a public officer where your official duty interferes with your personal interest. Political ambition is a personal interest. The official position you're occupying is the one that must not be interfered with your personal interest. So the issue of ethics and conduct has not been displayed with the greatest sense of responsibility by the cabinet members, that they had to wait for the president to give them ultimatum. In the civilized world, what the president did yesterday was actually what they call sack. So in other words, the cabinet members did not actually resign, they were sacked. Because if you leave them, they will wait until when they win or lose election before they resign. But when you have to be told to resign before you resign, that means it is not on your own volition. It is not on your own will. And in which case it is called sack in a more advanced and politically correct word.
All right. At the valedictory service, the president mentioned that replacement will be announced swiftly. Considering the delay that trailed the announcement of the ministers during his first tenure, how do you see that?
Well, until he proves otherwise, people will naturally go to the default. The default is that the president had not appointed ministers early enough during his first time, early enough during his second time, even though during the second time was a lot more closer than the first time. But I believe that on this one, the president is serious about it. However, there is even a confusion, because some of the cabinet members that were reported to have resigned towards the evening of today, we are hearing they are withdrawing from the race. In other words, they are still defiant. In other words, they are still considering that their ministerial position as much more important than even the presidential race they started. So they wanted to actually eat their cake and have it. Well, we don't know until you members of the press that authenticate. But what we read this evening was that the CBN governor has withdrawn from the race, was the Minister of Justice and Attorney General also has withdrawn from the presidential race. Dr. Chris Ndigetu has withdrawn from presidential race. So until we get the final press statement from the presidency to know. But what we know is that by Monday morning, which is 16, the ultimatum, anybody who wishes to pursue his political ambition ought to have resigned, or else they will face the acts of the president.
The race is on. We'll see what becomes of it. Special Advisor to the Deputy Senate President on Legal and Constitutional Matters, Daniel Buhari, joined us from Abuja. Thank you for your time on TVC News at 7.